Can't wait to watch Twisters again. Thank you guys so much for choosing this as the Friday review. Normally you choose something that's terrible and horrible. The Twisters? That's just the Asylum, right? No? No?
The tornadoes are converging into one super tornado. That's a 1,600-mile long tombstone.
So the Asylum make terrible movies. They've been making mockbusters that rip off highly successful blockbusters and just attempt to piggyback on success in some way for decades now. And honestly, it works. The first two Letterboxd reviews I went and looked up. By the way, check me out on Letterboxd. They were both complaining, oh god, I spent money on this, and then realized Glenn Powell wasn't turning up. And I'm like, the only people dumber than the people who actually fall for this are the people who make these films. One of the worst parts is, within the opening 10-15 minutes, two different people who have dedicated their lives to studying and chasing twisters freeze in front of them. One of them just gets sucked up and killed by it. So you can just try and ignore these characters while they regurgitate just a lot of information, I think just from the AI Google search help thing at the top of the page now, about tornadoes and science and stuff. But you also have to, while doing that, ignore the special effects because, oh lord, guys, you made Sharknado 10 years ago. Why have the special effects gotten worse? I'm not sure I've ever seen a set of actors struggle more with a script. The guy who was just like the cameraman from the journalist team, he was my favourite character because he just came out with the least science garbage from his mouth. It didn't make any sense. They just kept throwing in buzzwords. They kept talking about ionic bonds, which are a chemical thing. That's the reason that the tornadoes were merging together. And I'm 90% sure that makes no sense, but it doesn't matter. They just throw in a lot of buzzwords like bidirectional sensors or exponential leap in the algorithm and pretend that that makes sense. But even if it did make sense, which it doesn't, people aren't going to understand that. People aren't going to enjoy that. The actors are going to seem even worse than they actually are at acting because this is such a dense script to try and get out, and they look like they are just lost in the middle of it sometimes. Dead eyes, just bidirectional sensors. There's going to be an exponential leap in the algorithm. It looks like it's sucking their life force out, and honestly, I imagine that is how they fund the next Asylum movie. This brother finds his sister, and then they just work together, but they don't like working together because of the incident, and they've got a backstory of how he just survived when all their friends died, so she hates him. So they drag that backstory over the course of the film while just kind of driving with this news crew from sensor to sensor. They set up all these sensors. Do you know why they set up all these sensors? So that the general guy that's just hanging out with his boss can shoot a space laser at the twisters when they converge to destroy them all. But then it turns out... Wait a second. It turns out that if you do that, it will form a wall, which they said was 1,600 miles long, a wall of twisters. How does a... How... No. Never mind. So they form that, and then they have to figure out a whole different plan, which takes a while to stop that. Dude, America is gone. Do you know how long 1,600 miles is? By doing this, they have... And they kept saying, oh, don't worry, all the towns that are in the way, we've cleared out. In a matter of minutes, they've cleared out a 1,600-mile radius, just stretching along America. It's fine. It's fine. They killed millions of people by fucking this up, but at the end, they saved the day, so it's fine. If they eventually shut down the twisters, they're the good guys, right? They killed tens of millions of people. There's no way they didn't. This one broke me. That's the finale of this film. They spent, not a lot, but they spent money on making this, and that was their finale. It's not the number one worst film I've ever seen. It is in the top 15 or 20, I think. It was really impressive. You just don't see films like this, just because you have to try to make the CGI that bad, and yet they weren't. They take themselves dead seriously. It's rough. It is rough. Ones like this where there is not a joke in this film. They are taking themselves dead seriously this entire time. That is the worst, most egregious kind of mockbuster. So I'm giving Glenn Powell Ain't Coming half a star. Literally, I just went on Letterboxd, looked up this film, and the first 2 reviews that came up were like, where the fuck is Glenn Powell? And like, I bought this on iTunes for like $6.99 before realizing it's not Twisters. Like, you do deserve it a little bit if you actually spend money on it without realizing.